Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, ImperialDane, with another Propagandacast for you, my wonderful viewers. And today we have a 1 versus 1 on Angoville. Yes, indeed, it will be Angoville today. Always a fun map. Let's just briefly go over it. As of course, the western part of the map is highly open farmland areas. Not a lot of structures, not a lot of anything actually blocking lines of fire, so that's usually to the advantage of the Wehrmacht. Though that can of course be turned against it, and of course right in the eastern side we have much more dense area, buildings and whatnot, plenty of bocage as well, plenty of things where you can run around corners and be really sneaky, and of course you have 2 of the victory points there. Otherwise we have this central road, very open cover, and this spot usually being a good place to place down mines. Anyways, let's go have a look at our corner. In the northern half we have FlintandSteel as the 2nd Infantry Division, I believe it was called the Indian Head, ready to take on the Germans and break through to the Festung Brest, and who shall be holding the lines outside it, hoping it shall not be reached. None other than me, ImperialDane, as the 326th Grenadier Division. So, let's get started, shall we? Brest itself lying in Bretagne, and it was rather sought after by the Americans because they didn't really have any ports open in northern Normandy that could actually receive any larger amount of supplies, and so they had to go for western France and hope for something there. But of course the Germans were once more keen on ensuring that didn't happen, and the port city of Brest was designated as a fortress, which meant that it would be defended to the last man, heavily fortified, and of course everyone in it was told to fight to the death. Not exactly the most cheerful sort of thing, but the troops usually obeyed, and we have the 1st Foot Grenadier team on the way from the Wehrmacht quarters. We'll probably be seeing some riflemen soon as well from here. I'm going to have to warn you, this is not going to be the most epic fight. I'm not certainly finding the most hardened American commander, but on the other hand I certainly thought it had some interesting bits, as I was myself trying to get reacquainted with certain parts of basic fortifications, so I'll be trying to keep a focus on that. That means barbed wire, sandbags and mines, certainly something to keep an eye on, and I hope I can show you why such things can be really helpful and make a difference. Otherwise, 1st Foot Grenadier team is out. We'll probably be seeing some riflemen pop up. Yes indeed, right as I ping it, we have riflemen on the field heading southwards. Shall be interesting. And we see some pioneers sneaking about here, going for this high yield fuel point, of course being mirrored over here, but this one is certainly a bit more interesting, so it can be awfully hard to actually hold for the silent defenders because, well, there's an awful lot of bocage and no direct line of sight. But I'm going to make an attempt anyways, and laying down some barbed wire here to ensure that no one can directly run in here and set up in this building. This can be a really frustrating thing to happen, in fact, and it's even worse when you're in the Panzer Elite because you can't lay down barbed wire. So of course for any American commanders from the north, this is a good spot to harass. Really good, in fact. And we do see some riflemen here trying to move in fact, and getting stopped by barbed wire, and further barbed wire being laid down to sort of prevent any further attempts at moving in. And Foot Grenadiers sitting up right here behind this pickup truck. Further Foot Grenadiers are moving in from the south. These riflemen are forced a bit back slightly, trying to maneuver about, while not having much luck. Foot Grenadiers in fact sitting up here just in case. But no, the riflemen continue towards the east and here, but fresh Foot Grenadiers are on the spot to deal with anything. Hopefully these will vacate the premises and set up there. There we go, riflemen going for the high yield fuel point, while we do have a bit of engagement here between engineers and pioneers. Who shall win, I cannot say, but what shall these Foot Grenadiers do? And there we go, a bit of sandbags being quickly laid down right in the line of fire. Perhaps not the best thing to always do, but sometimes it can pay off, and it did there in particular when the enemy is busy taking a point. So now we have all Foot Grenadiers trying their best to get as much out of this piece of sandbag. And of course it is directional, so some of them will certainly be benefiting from it. And of course with all of these Foot Grenadiers, a bit of sandbags, these riflemen cannot stand up, so they are forced back. And further sandbags are being laid down to create a slightly more safe position, while further Foot Grenadiers can actually benefit from the cover. And we do have an MG42 hitting the field as well. and a bit of barbed wire, of course, to prevent the enemy from actually using these sandbags without having to put a bit of effort into clearing it. And these riflemen are very quick to get out of there once the foe grenadiers actually leave this premises. And we see these riflemen getting engaged, foe grenadiers charging in, one going down, though shot in the head, I suspect. Dead on the spot. Oh dear, that was actually the squad leader, which means that the firepower of that team will be drastically decreased, as the squad leader in foe grenadier teams tends to be the most effective one. MG42 setting up right here, and we shall have to see how that goes. So we see some further riflemen heading out there, while the others are probably reinforcing right back in the base. Third foe grenadier team on the way. Doing a nice spot, and some mines going down here to prevent, just in case they do break through here, then having this strategic point being a bit more of a troublesome thing to reach. Larger force sneaking about here from FlintandSteel's 2nd Infantry Division Able Company. And the MG42 setting up a bit more advanced position, using of course this lighter cover, but still it's cover, and cover is cover. And further foe grenadiers marching upwards, going to spot this attempt by breaking through here. We have engineers with flamethrowers on the lead, machine gun firing away these riflemen, but they do get away. MG42 will have to pull back, and we see some sandbags again being laid down, charging right into a mine. Again, using mines is a really good thing. Foe grenadiers apparently running a bit backwards, perhaps not entirely bad, but would have been more helpful towards these sandbags, and they will have to retreat as they are too close to the riflemen. Pioneers holding out behind these sandbags, firing away with their submachine guns. And we see these riflemen rather cleverly taking up position in this building, and of course those sandbags can be to their advantage now. But foe grenadiers are quick, and with an MG42 they might be able to force these fellows back. Third team also trying to get back to this position. Riflemen getting suppressed and killed. Apparently not taking up right position behind those sandbags, and are suffering heavily. 3 wounded. Those chaps are still stuck in that building. These other ones are quick to get behind this small defensive embrasure, while the riflemen are quick to try and seize back this victory point. And we do have a bit of engagement right here. Pioneers winning the fight against a rather weakened engineer team, and at the same time I reached the skirmish phase, and I'm going for the creek barracks. A bit unsure if I'm to get a pack or a grenadier team. We will have to see. It of course depends if my opponent goes bars, grenades or something, or if he's not, in which case I'll probably be needing some sort of anti-armor unit. And we see some force grenades charging in here. I do believe I've gone blitzkrieg, and yes indeed, assault grenades being lobbed in. Plenty of grenades, really doing a lot of damage, stunning the riflemen and really forcing them out. In fact, some of them are quite dead. I do believe we can see one right there. Not a happy fate. Certainly quite a bit of concussion, I wager. And other foe grenadiers are quick to seize this area. Of course, with skirmish phase, they do seize territory a bit quicker. And here we have a bit of a oversight. I sort of forgot my pioneers here. I thought they were seizing territory, but they weren't. And just as I was about to do it, we have riflemen with BARs, which of course alerts me to his intentions. And I get the grenadier team, and at the same time I'm going for the Kampfkraft center to get some veterancy again. Veterancy as the Wehrmacht is quite important. Even getting veterancy 1 can really do a lot to keep your infantry alive in the longer run, and even a bit during battle. So again, generally at some point during between tier 1 and tier 2, you generally want some veterancy, at least 1, and boost your infantry a bit there. Barbed wire going down again here, partly to deny territory and partly to deny my opponent maneuverability, because even denying them the ability to move around can actually mean quite a lot. Since it can even mean that, for example, your opponent might, for example, let's imagine you have an MG42 here, your opponent might try to just rush it some way, then of course, oh dear, barbed wire, he suddenly can't rush it. I mean, I've certainly seen it happen before, where the only thing that actually saved my MG42 was a piece of barbed wire that prevented the enemy from running straight at it. And there we go, large force, numerous riflemen, and we see some engineers, all with BARs. Foe grenadiers quick to get behind the sandbags, dropping the riflemen, and of course forcing them straight into the retreat, since he's not entirely keen on running into all of this. Further sandbags being laid down to sort of not blob them all together, just in case he might bring in some artillery. Otherwise, the MG42 still hanging around there, pioneers repairing barbed wire, and we also see some here again to sort of protect this strategic point. Again, I'm sort of also just playing around with barbed wire and seeing, well, what can you do with it? Again, try and experiment with it. It costs absolutely nothing. Just don't go overboard, and of course try to build huge lines, just pieces of barbed wire here and there, sandbags where you think, well, that might actually help such matters, and you might actually come a bit further. Again, it can also be effective against the Wehrmacht in particular. Grenadiers aren't too great on your offense, and when hitting something that involves barbed wire and sandbags, they might in fact run into an awful lot of trouble. And there we see a large force once again moving in. Some wounded Grenadier teams, but with veterans you want, and a Grenadier team, and there we go, large assault. German forces quick to seize up positions there. And focusing down the flamethrower engineers, and this puts a bit of a halt to the American assault. And with nary a loss in fact, whereas he suffered 6 losses, so that was a nice victory for me. Again, using cover and of course targeting the most threatening unit, for example flamethrower engineers when you're in cover, can make a difference. We do see a half-track out from Mr. FlintandSteel, perhaps hoping to add some light machine gun power, though the 50 caliber is certainly not light. Can also reinforce, of course he might also go for the quad upgrade, which will certainly greatly increase the firepower but won't really allow it to transport as much. Riflemen sneaking about in the west, and we see a pack moving forwards, setting it up here I imagine for a sort of reserve position, so I have it easily accessible for wherever the attack might come. But of course I've gone Blitzkrieg, so that will certainly be most helpful, and at the same time I'm going for the assault phase. And riflemen moving in here. Grenadiers are once more quick to get behind this small defensive position. Riflemen out in the open, not able to actually seize the car because, oh wait, barbed wire. And of course these riflemen are taking quite a bit of fire now, and further Grenadiers joining in, really turning this very badly. Again, a bit of preparation can really make a difference. And now we see a fresh assault moving in. We see a quad mounted anti-aircraft gun and a large assault line forming up. Riflemen cut down on the retreat. No medic station though for Mr. FlintandSteel. Let's go have a look at him. And in fact, plenty of manpower and munitions. He's gone for the infantry company though, but no artillery yet. No, nothing. And I'm surprised he didn't go for medic station. One armored car, but there you go. Pack moving forwards. German troops trying to hold the line the best they can and delay the half-track instead of giving it free rein, while the pack desperately, quickly moves up, manhandling things into position. Strike hits in, blowing the door loose, and moving through these buildings instead of going straight for this forward position. Certainly not a bad idea, but of course, Grenadiers though a bit caught on the wrong side. We'll have to get out of there. Get out of that, there we go. And assault grenades flying everywhere, but absolutely missing. Oh, stunning one though. Americans seizing up some cover. No further assault grenades apparently. A bit curious, you usually get a bit more though. There we go. And right into the throng of American troops, stunning and damaging, while Grenadiers from this position as well open fire, hitting a mine, suppressing those Grenadiers, but still the position has been held despite overwhelming forces and firepower through the almighty power of sandbags and barbed wire. Have been able to really gain a small advantage here. So again, barbed wire, sandbags can make a difference and can really just make it annoying for your opponent to even try to attack you. Sending in some riflemen unsupported. He has gained most of the map otherwise, so it's not all bad, but I might have recommended some sort of medic station, or perhaps a mortar would have been helpful to really keep the pressure on while he assaulted and deny me some of the usefulness of course the sandbags, which of course requires my troops to stand behind them. Riflemen setting up position here. Not a bad position, it certainly is a dominating one. And with the arts they can certainly provide some firepower, but of course these sandbags and some of these hedges does provide some cover as well. And we see some Mark II grenades